Hello and welcome to Consolation League. I'm one of your hosts, Scott,
I'm Paul.
and today we're going to be focused on 40K Warhammer. This is going to be a
Mhm.
pretty specific Warhammer. We're going to talk about the recent tournament we played at the Critical Hit Gaming Lounge in Curtis, Ontario. It was the Ruin and Devastation 40K tournament. A hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, ruin and devastation, kind of like a foreshadowing from my experience at this tournament.
Yeah.
I think I came second last, so firmly back in the consolation league.
You
Um,
dipped your toes into some success at AOS,
yeah,
quickly pulled back
yeah,
into
quickly,
40K.
quickly back to where I'm comfortable, where I know my
Humbled,
space.
humbled and
Yeah,
home.
yeah. After the 1,000 point learners, beginners AOS tournament, where I was like, not too shabby. Win two, lost one,
I'm,
placed in the, I don't know, the top 10 at least or
yeah.
whatever. And then this one just just plummeted like a stone, just dropped like a
Uh,
stone. But I had a ton of fun
yeah.
actually at this tournament. I was a little tired by my third round, to be
Mhm.
honest. Um, uh, but I got up early, obviously, to drive from Kingston to Curtis to attend this one,
Mhm.
and it was my second tournament at Critical Hit Gaming Lounge, out in Curtis, Ontario, just kind of like northeast of Oshawa. What a great spot for a tournament.
Absolutely
Um,
fantastic. I love the gaming lounge. It's so great.
yeah, it's a really fun experience, and just that kind of like vaulted ceiling for me. Like it didn't. I'd never. There's 30, no, 29 people, I think,
Yeah, I think it
total.
turned out to be.
Yeah, that's right, because I was 28th of 29, but there was 29 people at this tournament, and it totally, I didn't feel like it was busy, but I didn't feel as crowded as I have at other spaces.
No,
And I was never, I think everyone was like warming up and sweating maybe a little bit, but I never felt like, oh,
it
shirt's
wasn't
sticking to me.
claustrophobic at
It
all or
wasn't
anything like that.
claustrophobic. No, highly encourage attending tournaments there. The staff are great. It was a lot of fun, and I gotta say, like the Durham GTA group that seems to play there regularly, what an awesome bunch of people. Um, we met with a couple of the mid-table terrors.
Yeah.
That team had a couple good chat with them before. Jordan from that team, super nice guy.
Mhm.
Even invited you and I out to hit St. Louis wings
Yeah.
after the tournament, which was really nice. Unfortunately, we couldn't attend that. Fortunately for me, I was getting taken out for dinner anyway, kind of a preemptive birthday dinner with family. Unbeknownst to me, it was a little bit of a surprise at the end of the day, uh, but yeah, just like a friendly, welcoming group of people.
Yeah.
Um, and great players. Like I learned, I didn't do well, obviously. Spoiler alert. I was 0 and 3. Uh, but I had a blast playing.
Mhm.
And I got to say, the mid table terrors players, like they were, because I know you played a guy, I can't remember what his name was again.
Joel.
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 You played round one. I played a mid-table stairs guy, Tyler,
Hmm.
in my first round,
Great guys.
and great guys. Very patient. It was my first time playing my Necrons competitively, so I was kind of fumbling through it a little bit. The guy had all the patience in the world for me, gave me great advice. Never once kind of did I feel like I was being baited into making a move or a decision. It was like genuine, um, genuine friendly advice,
Hmm.
encouraging to like an amateur player such as myself.
Yeah.
But I guess we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here because I'll talk more about that as we kind of go through our the
Hmm.
fun we had um, at this tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great tournament. Lots of great people. It's one of the things that's actually spurred me to join the Durham Region Warhammer League.
Hmm.
Was everybody that's in there in the Facebook Messenger group. They're all really welcoming and everything. So it's been a hell of a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Even when you get beat, you end up learning
Yeah.
something and you have a few laughs. So
Yeah.
it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
Couldn't agree
but
more.
so let's get into round one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Why don't you kick us off with your game against Tyler?
Let's kick us off with my first butt kicking of the day. So round one, Drew, I was placed with Tyler from Mid Table Terrors. Tyler was running the Tau Retaliation Cadre, tons of like crisis suits.
Crisis
I
suits
play,
galore.
yeah, I played Tau uh, like at home
Hmm.
against my stepdaughter's boyfriend is a Tau player, so we'd only played like fluffy home games, basically a learn to play kind of thing. So it was my first actual experience playing a Tau player who knew what they were doing and knew their rules up and down. And the handy thing for me is Tyler's also a Necron player and
Yes.
played Hypercrypt. So I ran Necron's Hypercrypt detachment. I had a couple of Hexmark destroyers. Uh, One of them had the Dimensional Overseer enhancement, which allowed me to put 4 units into the Hyperphase
Hmm.
ability instead of 3. I had Luminor Xeris, Imhotep the Stormlord, a Plasmancer, and a Scorpec Lord. And then I had a unit of 10 Immortals, and I put the Plasmancer with them. I put one I had a unit of Scorpec destroyers. I put them just the 3 models with the Scorpec Lord, and then had another unit of 3 just on their own. And then I had 3 units of Necron Warriors, a Canoptic Doomstalker, a Reanimator, 2 units of 3 Scarabs each, and
Pretty beefy list. Like your
a
list
lot
is,
of models. I had
yep,
a lot of toys on the table to play with, and I had a 5 Lich Guard to
right.
keep Imhotep company because Imhotep I basically hid all 3 of my games. I hit him on the home objective with his Lich
Hmm.
Guard little bubble around him and let it. He generates CP.
Yeah, just let you get
So
the CP going.
I never ran as I was spending CP, but I
Hmm.
was always coming into it.
Yep.
Steady cash flow is what was going on in that in the command point department. So yeah, I played Tyler. Um, I believe Tyler had the first turn in that match, if I remember right. And to to be honest, the game for me fell apart. I think, in my own view, all 3 games I made these mistakes, which is it's funny because we talked about this in our last podcast with Brian
Mhm.
in the deployment phase. My choices of deployment, thinking back on like how I performed and stuff, where I placed my models, and um, what model chose to put in deep strike or in reserves
Right.
versus what ones I decided to deploy that first round. I think that's what really turned the tide for me in a lot of my uh, matches
Okay.
in this tournament. So uh, this this game, I worked hard to score as many secondaries as I possibly could.
Mhm.
Where I fell down was I completely forgot about my primary game. And unfortunately, this was something I repeated for the rest of the tournament. You think I would have realized, like after the first game, that, hey, wait a second, those objectives mean something too. um,
Those big
so,
circles, what are those for again?
yeah, I brought them too. Every table, I was the one who brought the objective markers. So I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to say I was drinking, but I wasn't. I
You were
wasn't.
tired. It was a long drive.
It was a long drive. I'd had a big coffee. Big.
There was
There was no excuse. I had a Coca-Cola midway through. Proud sponsor of the show, Coca-Cola Classic. Yeah,
um,
I'd like to say that that was an excuse, but it wasn't. Um, Yeah, so working through that match with Tyler, I think I know we had fun. We had a good time. Uh, when I think we did get to round five. I think that one did go the full five.
Hmm.
Quick player, and so things moved pretty quickly. Um, he he did the thing where I ran on a monolith. I forgot the monolith in the list. Yeah, so I was running a monolith. No big deal. Um,
Just, those
you
things.
know, big 22 wound T13 400 point model, but kind of the
Right.
linchpin of my whole list. But whatever. Um, so I was running the. He would try and I think even in the first turn he tied it up in combat and he rinsed and repeated.
Mhm.
Um, and I was making my rolls were on fire
That's
for
great.
my game with Tyler. Like I didn't have a bad roll, and we even enjoyed a couple laughs uh, over. I did a couple of charges and I'd failed the initial charge and command point reroll it, and 9-inch charge, boom, nine. Like did it twice. He was like, "Oh my god!" Like, because usually I command point reroll and it fails again, and I just
Yeah.
waste the CP. As a lot of us, I've we all that's happened to us all, but it was like command point reroll, boom. You want nines? Here are your nines, man. You want nines? I got nines for you all day. um, so I think I did pretty good on secondaries, but I it was my deployment that really
Right.
kind of held me back with that one. Uh, I kept in deep strike two Hexmark destroyers, which is great because they're really good. They're small enough base that they're great for deep striking anywhere on the battlefield. I get a strat that lets me deep strike within 3 inches of you. Um, so for scoring like established locus and things like that,
Yeah.
awesome. They're the perfect unit for that. So two of those, and then the Scorpec units. I thought, okay, they're a bit intimidating. They're T6, they're toughness 6, 3 wounds apiece, decent enough save, but they're pretty good at melee. They're 4 attacks each,
Hmm.
so it's enough to like slow guys down and bog down other units, and they're not expensive. That's
Yeah.
the only expensive thing on my list really is, excuse me, is the monolith.
Hmm.
So what I didn't account for, and I didn't learn this until I thought about it this morning, wallowing in my pity. No, I'm
Crying
just
in the
kidding.
shower.
Crying in the shower, sliding down the shower wall. What I realized was I should have kept them on the board. They move 8 inches. So if I had done things like move the monolith, and then they have the infantry keyword, even though they're like tarantula guys with
Yeah.
swords, they can go through the eternity gate. So then that you can redeploy them within 6 inches, wholly within 6 inches of the monolith. So you move your monolith up, and then I can pick them
Boom.
up from the corner behind cover and redeploy them, put them right on an objective, and then be
Hmm.
like, yeah, come get them. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
shoot them off or whatever. But at least getting that additional movement, scoring primaries
Yeah.
as well as secondaries,
Yeah.
that would have made the difference. Um, and during it, when my Scorpex did finally get into combat with Tyler, he was like, "Oh, those are dev wounds, right?" And I was like, "He's like, normally they've got like a plasma scythe with them, so it's a little token model that
Yeah.
follows them around, and you can use once per battle." And I was like, "Yeah, I realized that this morning that I didn't include it on my list." And it's a war gear option. And you know what? This guy he was such a good guy to play with. He was like, "Oh, you can go ahead and we can do it without them." But I was like, you know what, man? I didn't. It was my mistake.
Yeah.
The list was submitted. I didn't include it as a work gear option, so I don't feel like it's fair for me to be like,
Hmm.
actually,
Yeah.
let's. I meant
That's
to do
totally fair.
this, and you know what I mean. Like, I don't know
You make a mistake, you live with it. I did that in
exactly.
all of my games. There was like, I meant to do this last turn. I'm
Hmm.
gonna live with it. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So we had a really fun game. Tyler obviously won. 96 to
90 to 67.
90 to 67. Um, yeah, great player. Had a lot of fun playing him. Afterwards, we had enough time to kind of like just chat out. I think, well, actually, maybe we only made it through to round four, and we just mathed out the last round. That may have um, but at the end, we had that like small kind of like lunch break, and he and I
Yeah,
just chatted about the hobby, and he asked me about Necrons, what got me into it, and that sort of thing, and made some book recommendations. Which if Tyler, if you're listening, I'm definitely taking you up on. I've ordered the book, and I think it's like the Twice Dead King series. He says is excellent for Necron stuff, so I've ordered it to
right on.
dip my toes in it, and yeah, game one was great. I had a like I loved it. It was
Hmm.
probably my favorite of the three games of the day,
That's awesome. Yeah.
hands down. What about
Tyler,
you?
Tyler's a great player. I've played him before with his Necrons.
Hmm.
Really close game. Ended up just beating him ever
Oh,
so
nice.
slightly.
Yeah.
Literally on the last play of the game, I think it
Oh,
was.
okay.
So it was such a tight game, but it was a great thing. He was a great
Yeah.
player. My
Yeah,
first,
and a
sorry,
laid back guy too, like
totally laid back.
friendly,
Yeah,
totally laid back, like
yeah, yeah. Last
awesome.
tournament, I played him with I think his retaliation cadre and slightly different list to what you played.
Hmm.
But it was another one of those where he ended up winning. I just did the primaries, and he was able to just kind of hold on and just
Yeah.
pile away. But it's Tau or nothing to sneeze at. A lot of people talk shit about the Tau. I might
Hmm.
not like Tau, but
Hmm.
they are a strong army.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, a lot of
strong.
people chatting beforehand. I remember when we were chatting with Jordan from Mid Table Terrors, like he
Hmm.
had brought up Talos, and I was like, I'm just happy to come and not just play Space Marines. I'm like, the
Yeah,
nerd in me is like, when I first started playing, I brought Black Templars and I ended up playing like three Space Marine armies. And I was like, what the heck is this? Like,
yeah.
that's just not what I want to go and do
It
because I'm
isn't.
like, I like theme and thematic. And yeah, you could tweak the story to make it like these Space Marine chapters of just butted
Yeah,
heads,
but
but
it's not
that's
the same.
heresy. It's heresy. It's not the
Yeah,
same. So playing Necrons this time, everyone was my enemy, right? There's
yeah.
no allies. So it was thematic, which satisfies that kind of like
Hmm.
nerd impulse.
Well, as you know, I took my Votan list.
Yep.
Two Hecatons, four Sagittars,
Nice.
three squads of five Hearthguard, one of them in
Hmm.
Deep Strike,
Hmm.
two of them inside the Hecatons along with their Einhir champion, two groups of 10 warriors that got
Hmm.
split up into the Sagittars. One of the groups of five obviously stayed on my home objective just to keep it kind of safe and try and do some screening out.
Right.
Um, and then my three groups of three pioneers. That was pretty much my 2K list on the nose.
Nice.
My first fight, my first round went into
Hmm.
Joel from Mid
Hmm.
Table Terrors playing his
Hmm.
Chaos Demons.
Nice.
Only ever played them once before.
Right.
Um, and it was kind of a learning game, so it was interesting. Demons are a very interesting army,
Okay.
and it's funny that you mentioned that deployment is kind of where your game fell apart. I think
Mm.
I think I deployed okay. It was when I did my first movement that I didn't go aggressive enough.
Oh.
And so I didn't I was kind of stuck in two things. The list that Joel had was specifically waiting for me to deploy all of my Sagittars because they knew
Hmm.
that they had Scout along with my Pioneers.
Hmm.
And he had a bunch of Nurglings around
Just to block you.
just to move block me, just so
Right.
that they couldn't scout up, they couldn't move some more. So he did a great job in kind of pinning me where I was, forcing me to deal with the Nurglings before I could do anything else.
Right.
He
Now, do the
had,
Nurglings, sorry if I can interrupt for a second, do the Nurglings have infiltrate? Is that how they were able to like
yes,
block you?
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. There's zero OC and everything like that. They can't
Hmm.
do actions or anything, but they can just effectively move block you, and they were
I
great
th
at it,
I
absolutely
think
great at it. There's
I
zero
th
OC.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think you can still do things like engage with them. I think they
They
count
could
for
they
those
would
things
still
for like,
count for anything in table quarters or in
yeah,
containment.
have a unit here.
Well, containment
Containment,
maybe
I think,
not.
is an action. I don't think they
Yeah,
can do containment, but
but yeah,
right,
anything that's like a table edge or something like that they
right.
need to be within, they can totally do that kind of stuff for you.
Hmm.
He had a great unclean one. He had a Rodigus. He had a Keeper of Secrets,
Cool
and
models.
Yeah, all really cool models, fantastically painted. His, I
Yeah,
think it was his
nice.
great unclean one that he had was
Hmm.
resin. It weighed a ton. It was just a
Like a
heavy model, but
kadunk.
it was absolutely incredible.
Nice.
Um, so great player. Actually, he collects dice. He was saying,
Oh, cool.
and so he passed off one of them to me. I've got this little cool cheese dice now that'll be thrown
Nice.
into my little set. So his influence will continue with me in the rest of the games that I play.
Nice.
Um,
Did
but
you throw him one of yours?
no, I didn't. That was
Oh.
probably an a-hole move of mine. I should have done that.
It's
Didn't
called a
even cross
hint.
my mind.
When he gives you something, it's the law of reciprocity. You're supposed to and then return something. But
Well, I
you'll
returned
see
by
him again.
I let him win the game. That's
Yeah, that's it. In trade,
yes.
here it is. Very
Yeah,
good.
I threw the game. No, but in all honesty, he played really well. It was a really
Hmm.
great game. Um, Shadow of the Warp type of stuff. He was able to move. I had to basically give up on primary objectives in
Yeah.
one corner because he had three gigantic models on it that I
Hmm.
just was not going to be dealing with. So it kind of forced me to the other half of the table. And I just he and I were talking after the game. He won. It was a 96-54.
Wow. Hmm.
So a very good win from him. Played
Yeah.
it really, really well. But we were talking afterwards, and it was he was 100% right, and I carried this into the rest of my games. Was I didn't play aggressive enough with my
Right.
hecatons and stuff. They're big, beefy tanks that can
Yeah.
handle a beating,
Yeah, they have a
and
2-up save, no
two up
invuln.
save, no invul, but a two up save. Um, Strength 12, 16 wounds. Like
Hmm.
it takes a while for something to beat into them.
Right.
And his army isn't about shooting. So I could have just plunked them in the middle and just kind of let them stay there and taken care of
Right.
some stuff. But I didn't play it aggressive enough with them. I held them back too much. I was too conservative.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of my round one went like that. And I took his advice to heart and
Hmm.
definitely played more aggressive in the next couple rounds. And
Oh, that's good.
the next games got a lot closer. So
Nice.
which was a lot better. So but yeah.
Ye- Yeah, I
So
mean, my first game, like Tyler had some good advice. I asked him, what he thought of the list. He's like, I think it's a good list. Like he didn't have any
mhm,
kind of criticism there. But he was like, your immortals, uh, make sure because they had the Plasmancer had the Arisen Tyrant enhancement, which when you place him on the board, the turn he comes in, he gets full rerolls to hit. So I could just fish for the lethals because he gives the
right.
immortals lethals on fives. So I could literally just fish for those and just plop it down and let them shoot
Hmm.
whatever you put in front of them, right? So I did take that advice and thought about that part moving forward for sure, and the whole just like
Hmm.
remember because he even asked me, he's like, so he went first, end of turn one. He's like, "Are you gonna pick up any? It's the end of my turn. Are you gonna pick anything up?" And I went, "Nah, I'm good. I think I'm good." And it was like later on, I'm like, "That was a clue. That was a
That was a
friendly
strong
clue."
hint.
Yeah, you're looking for a sign. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so afterwards, we kind of talked about that, and he gave great advice. And so I went into turn two,
Hmm.
and I faced the retaliation cadre once more. I played another Tau player named Craig, super
Hmm.
friendly guy, very upbeat, friendly. Uh, Fun to play. Now we had a much, much closer match. I think I lost this one by like 2 points.
Yeah.
We had to math out. It was a slower game.
Hmm.
Um, I think we were both taking a longer time, like deciding like moves and that sort of stuff, like very
Yeah.
carefully kind of sizing each other up and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. Unfortunately, I don't understand the retaliation. I don't know enough about the Tau units to sort of go through their list.
Right.
Um, I know they uh, both players, both Tyler and Craig, had like stealth suits,
Yep.
little 3 wound models that gave a bunch of bonuses. I think they even allowed like a unit to deep strike with within 3 inches of the stealth suits. So you could move the stealth suit forward and then deep strike a unit beside it without, I think, having to worry about the 9 inches.
Yeah, I think that's part of the retaliation cadre itself is
Yeah.
something with their deep striking and their bonuses if they're closer to the units.
Yes.
And then there's
Yeah.
the
If you're,
whole if yeah, I think it's within 12 or something, they get a bunch
yes.
of bonuses. And then the thing about Tau in general when
Mhm.
playing them, because I've played Tau a bunch of times now
Mhm.
and I've had my ass handed to me a whole bunch of times by them, is the guiding is
Yeah.
their smaller units, their fire warriors, their
Hmm.
stealth suits,
Hmm.
whatever, they can guide for something else,
Hmm.
which gives them the bonus of the line of sight that they don't normally have, and then some additional bonuses. And
Right.
they can be quite a challenging thing to deal with if you're trying to be
Hmm.
like, okay, well, what do I take out? And
Yeah.
do I have the volume or the power to take out that big crisis suit blob? Or am I better
Hmm.
off going against these smaller things that are offering all these bonuses for
Hmm.
guiding?
Yeah.
And then they've obviously got drones, and you're always like, oh, yes, I threw something big at them, and I've got this big heavy thing. And it's like, okay, the drone takes that. And you're like, God damn it.
Yeah.
All that
Absolutely.
firepower goes into nothing
Yeah.
because the drone's gone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The Ghost Keel, I think, has two like shield drones,
Yeah, I
which
think
can
so.
just negate damage. Two, they can do it twice. There's like tokens.
Yeah.
So, anyways, rolled into Craig's forces. Now, this mission, sorry, the first mission was what again? Oh, stalwarts and terraform.
Terraform, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
This was raised
Um,
banners and then linchpin.
linchpin. So like hold your home objective and hold other objectives.
Yeah.
And then if you held other objectives, they counted for 5 points
Yeah.
if you still had your home. Um, so yeah, this one again, same sort of mistakes with deployment. So we did, and I know there was an option to change the deployment for this one. So
Yes.
we stuck with sweeping engagements.
We did not, in my one, we switched it to
And I
search and
think I would have
destroy.
done better. I would have done better with search and destroy. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't like sweeping the long diag or the short diagonals. I don't
this
like the
one,
diagonals in general.
well, I can't, was it sweeping engagement? This one was, you had, your deployment zone was like a large Tetris piece. So it was long board edge against long board edge, except on one side of the table, I think it was like 14 inches, and on the other side of the table it was 8 inches.
Okay, yeah, it's 12 and 20, I think is what it is. And
Oh, yeah,
it's
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
And and I think I would have done better with the search and destroy being like just the corner,
the corner, yeah.
because it would allowed me to like kind of fan out in two directions more and front. And
Hmm.
anyways, um yeah, I played more aggressively. He went after the monolith like it was
Right
going out of
away.
style.
Yeah.
He had a, is it a hammerhead, big tank,
Yeah.
strength 20 railgun on it,
Yep.
being guided by all kinds of things. And
Yeah.
it was the hammerhead. He was the only one to blow up the monolith, and it was the hammerhead that did it.
Yeah, if it
Um,
hits, it wipes out whatever it hits, almost
yeah.
guaranteed.
Um, so the turn, it started out pretty neck and neck. You know, I scratched out. He had two of those. I think they're devilfish or something. They're like little
Yeah.
two-guy speeder bike kind of
Yeah. I think
things,
those are devilfish. I think
or they
so.
look like trikes or something like that.
Yeah.
He got right up on like into me, fired a bunch of stuff. I think he scratched a couple wounds off like the Doomstalker or something like that. And then I erased those two units right away, and then tried to get out onto objectives, but we sort of like contested a few.
Hmm.
I did pretty good on scoring my secondaries, but it was really, I don't think I ever scored more than 8 on primary,
Oh, wow.
because I would have one at my
Right.
home, and I never had more than two.
Okay.
So I really got bogged down scoring primaries. Um, and like I said, our game, we probably I think we wrapped up at the bottom of three at
Okay.
round three. We had to like math out the rest of it. I'd lost quite a few assets, but I still had oh no, the monolith was gone. I still had a few units to like move around and get stuff done.
Hmm.
Um, so that one, yeah, it was very, very close. I mean, even if we played it out in full, the outcome would have probably been the same.
Hmm.
He did still have quite a few of the bigger crisis suits, but they're terrible in melee. That's the one thing.
They're not great
Like
in melee,
even
but
even their big suits were
yeah,
not a threat to me in melee. They like missed 90% of the time, and I was just like, okay. And then I'd
yeah.
hit back and scratch out a few wounds.
It's their shooting. It's their shooting
The
that'll just take
shooting,
you out.
yeah,
And you got to
and,
get close enough to contest an objective and that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, how about what was your round two?
My round two was into a great guy named Ryan,
Hmm.
who was there with his brother and I
Oh
think his
yes, Team
future
War
kind of,
Mallet,
yeah, something
the
like that.
the
Um,
brothers and the brother-in-law.
yeah, future
Yeah,
brother-in-law type of thing. Yeah, he was
yeah,
playing his GSC,
yeah.
which was great. I've only ever played GSC one other time, and I've never played them with against Tao,
Hmm.
Votan, I should say.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a hell of a lot of fun playing against them.
Yeah.
This one was another close game. It ended out 83 to 73. And I
Wow.
think it was by round two, I think it was where he had a fantastic round where
Hmm.
he ended up scoring, I think, almost 20 points just from primaries and the secondaries that he had. It
Okay.
gave him just that little bit of a lead, and I just wasn't able
Yeah.
to close that gap any further. Um, but it was a great thing. He had a whole bunch of rock grinders,
Hmm.
um, some
Tons of bikes. I remember looking
some
at
ridge runners,
his.
some Atalan
Yeah.
bikes with the quads, and then a bunch of aberrants
Hmm.
that were kind of kicking around. Yeah, like I say, it was a great game. He had the Reductus Saboteur,
Hmm.
which if you move within 9, she can just detonate a bomb that's around and do mortal wounds.
Well,
She did a few things or tried to do a few things right from the bat, but I took her out, I think in round one, just to make sure that she wasn't going to get any of her, mortal wound shenanigans off on
yeah.
me because Votan have no response to that. So it
Yeah.
was just
There's
like
no feel
take
no
her out
pains. Yeah.
as fast as I can. But it was one of those ones where I moved up, I played aggressive, got onto some objectives, um, but he had bodies that he could throw around and move around. And I just didn't have my list wasn't tailored to take care of volume of infantry. It was kind of tailored to try and take out bigger things.
Hmm.
So like my Hecaton, it's got some stuff that can take care of. It's got like something that does 6 shots, something that
Hmm.
another thing that does 6 shots, and then something that does two.
Hmm.
That can be high wounding, but that's not taking out a whole bunch
Yeah.
of models when you've got, 10, 20 things you're trying to deal with.
Hmm.
Um, and then I didn't realize this, but the Ridge Runners also have indirect fire. So
Oh,
right
yeah.
in literally he went first in round one
Hmm.
and he wiped out my Hearthkin warriors on my home objective with indirect fire. So I had to spend my first turn actually getting other guys out and then
Onto your home
onto
objective.
my home objective again and then moving out just so I could score primaries.
Right.
So it kind of put me a little bit on the back foot right from the get-go,
Yeah.
but it was a great game. We had a lot
Hmm.
of good laughs, a lot of really good conversations about, okay, what are you intending to do?
Yeah.
Kind of talking through what some of the options were
Hmm.
about, okay, you've got this secondary, you've got like, what are your options that you could do? Oh, well, you could score it over there by doing this type of thing. And just having a great conversation with the game, like being just fully invested in making sure both of us are having a good time at it and everything.
Nice.
Um, Great player said he doesn't often get a win, so he was really pleased with himself.
Good.
Because
Congratulations,
his
Ryan. You well
yeah,
deserved.
I was like, good for you. I don't get a lot of wins either, but I'm
Ah,
glad you got one.
but that's the.
But in all honesty, I was really happy that he got the win. He played a good game,
Hmm.
and yeah, 10 point split is all it came down to. So
Nice.
it was a close game.
Hmm.
It was really close, and he played it really well. So
Do
I
they?
would,
Sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say I highly recommend that him and his crew come back and play in some of the tournaments just for more exposure because he was saying that they play against each other a lot. So
Yep.
they haven't played a lot of variety of armies. So
Yep.
hopefully he got a lot of experience playing different things. And he hadn't played Votan before. So he was kind of, we were just kind of giving each other, keeping each other up to date on, oh, hey, just so you know, if the bikes have a little bit of a shenanigans in them, if they're not in
Hmm.
engagement range, I can pick them up again.
Right.
Just letting you know that that kind of thing can happen. Just letting you know this, just letting you know that. Like keeping each other aware of any little gotchas because you
Very
don't want to be
cool.
the guy that's like, haha, and like
Well, some
pulling
people
something
want to
out.
play that way, and that's like entirely up to them. But like, it's nice when both players have that understanding of like the
Yeah.
social contract and like,
Yeah.
you know what, this is the etiquette is this,
Yeah.
and
And we had a
you
few times in the game where it was like, oh, I intended to do
know,
this.
some
And it
rewinds.
like a little bit of a rewind, not like a
Hmm.
massive rewind, just be like,
Hmm.
oh, I forgot to shoot with that unit after you've made maybe like declared your charge. It's like, is it okay if I just finish off the shooting with that
Right.
those one little guys in the corner?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that shooting amounted to nothing, no damage, no
Exactly.
wounds.
Exactly.
So
And
it was just a
I'm more inclined to just be like, yeah, go for it, man.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Nothing
I've already
major.
lost one. Nothing's gonna happen
Yeah,
here.
there was a couple in my first game where I was like, oh, I forgot I had put warriors there from Deep Strike, and that
Hmm.
you had some hounds over there. I meant to charge them, and it was like, do you want to go back? That's okay if you can. I was like, no, I made the mistake. I
Hmm.
need to live with
Nice.
it. That's my
Yeah,
own problem. But that was a mistake that I made, and it did cost me a little bit later on, but
sure.
nothing enormous. Just like takes a round to kind of make up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great game, and it was really fun playing into GSC. I like that army. I
Yeah.
think I said it on the last podcast. I like the
Mhm.
lore. I like the look of them. They're
Cool
creepy.
models. Yeah.
They've got that dark vibe to them that I think
Yeah.
the 40K millennia really calls
It's
for.
yeah, totally suits it.
Yeah,
It's like that. Yeah, it's guerrilla warfare, sneak attacks,
yeah,
like taking things down from the inside. It's
yeah.
very cool. Um, did that game finish?
That
Like
game did finish. Yeah, we
you got
managed to
to round
play.
five.
Yeah,
Nice.
we played out round one. We managed to get all the way through. Round two, we managed to get all the way through. I think we got all the way through once they actually like yelled, "Okay, like 5 minutes left" or "dice down" type of
Oh, okay.
idea. So it came right to the wire, but we managed to get it through.
Oh, so you didn't actually play round five.
We did on those ones. So round one and two, sorry, games one and two, I played all the way through, all
Okay,
the way
sorry,
through.
I misunderstood. Gotcha.
It
Okay,
was only in the last game that we're going to be talking about
right.
that we didn't get all the way through.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking to you, it was Adam, Ryan, and Steve was the brother-in-law at the beginning, and I remember them talking, the three of them, about how ran their own little in-house
Yeah.
tournament. And Steve, who I played round three against, the brother-in-law himself, uh, and his custodies, that he'd won their family tournament.
Yes.
And so that's who I slid into round three facing off against. Nice guy, uh, as you know, because you met him and we were chatting with
Yep.
them a little bit at the start of the tournament there. Still pretty new to it, like even greener than I am. Um, I think it was his first time playing Necrons, which was fun for him, I hope. And
Mhm.
it was my first time playing Custody, so that was a lot of fun for me. And I the game started off pretty good. I got to go first for a change, which I was like,
Nice.
okay, pretty cool. And once I moved out, I was like, oh, I've deployed everything wrong. Like I'm not close enough to do anything.
Oh no.
And it was just one of those moments where I was like, oh, for God's sake, like we talked about this. Like, what's the matter with you? And I was just, so I was struggling right off the hop. And I was like,
Mhm.
good look. But then, I thought it through
Yeah.
and I was able to use like my hyper, uh, the Eternity Gate thing with the monolith to like get someone on an objective. move some models around. I basically used the monolith like a bus. I drove it left, it dumped some guys here. Next turn, I drove it into the center, it dropped some
Right.
guys there. So I was doing well, scoring. I think in the first turn, I maxed out my secondaries. So
Nice.
I was very pleased with that. And then round two, I think I was able to max out my secondaries again. Uh, but the custodies just slowly started parking on objectives. He
Yeah.
charged me in turn one with a blade champion and like six custodies. I think it was six, five or six custodian. It must maybe it was five because six isn't the right number.
Yeah. Five
The
guard.
blade champion plus five, and I ended up wiping them out.
Wow.
It took like 3 units. Illuminor Xeris, uh, a squad of 10 Necron warriors, which he wasn't. It was one of those moments where I was on the verge of just being like, oh, you're custodians, you're gonna kill them all. I'm gonna pick them up. But even with their like they have they hit on twos
Hmm.
and lethals and all that stuff. He just had some unlucky rolls at the start of the game. That got better as the game went on.
It did not
And
carry through.
that did not carry through. Um, and so he just wasn't able to pick them up. And thankfully, I passed my battle shock. So my turn, I was able to move back those 2 units off, and then laid down some heavy fire from the monolith, heavy fire
Hmm.
from the Doomstalker. Chewed up a few of them, and then I think I charged them with a bunch of score packs, and that sort of thinned them out enough to like
Right.
take care of them finally. But I think it took me like two turns to do that.
Yeah.
But by then he had like two Gladius tanks, and he had that Draxus, that Imperial Inquisitor.
Hmm.
So he ran Talons of the Emperor, which I think most people do Auric Champions or Shield Host.
Yeah, I think Shield Host is kind of the standard from the index, I think, and then
Yeah,
Auric Champions is
is
the
another one
newer
that gives
one. Yeah, some good bonuses.
some good bonuses. And so Talons of the Emperor, you got to have a sisters,
Yep.
silent sisters within 6, and then it gives you feel no pains for mortals and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So unfortunately, like one of my good weapons, and as I'm saying this, I'm like, devastating wounds are not mortal wounds, so maybe that wasn't played right because it gives out dev wounds. Would he get the fight feel no pain against?
It
Because I
still
think
gets, it's still, I
it
think you
still
still
counts
get
as
them.
mortals. Okay,
I
never
think
mind.
so. I could be wrong, but I think so.
Correct us in the comments, fans, if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that's the case. But either way, it took so much for me to shift his units,
Hmm.
and he parked like he literally all he had to do was park
Yeah.
on the objectives, and I didn't have enough oomph.
Yeah.
My monolith was my big heavy
Yeah.
hitter, um, and I was trying to be agile. I was picking it up in my hyper phase and then dropping it down in his deployment zone to kind of make because I was focused on scoring secondaries. And when after the game, I was like, why didn't I move a unit onto that objective earlier in the game? And I would have had it, and he would have had to come around that terrain feature to get me,
Hmm.
like make him work for it. Instead, he kept moving forward. So it was kind of like another one where I made mistakes with deployment
Hmm.
and and not maximizing movement, poor choosing the wrong unit for the. I guess that's a thing for the future. It's like how do you decide what unit's right for what job? You know what I mean? Because you have battle line units, that are big blocks. They're 10 models deep. There's 10 wounds of
Hmm.
damage. They have to do 10 wounds to them in order to get rid of them. What job does it have when it's got low movement and these sort of things? Uh, and it's one of those things where I forgot the advice I got from Tyler because it was like Tyler was
Hmm.
like, think about using cosmic precision on your Necron warriors so that you can just drop you need an objective. Well, they
Drop
get
them on it.
two OC2 each model.
Yeah.
Boom, drop them all on there, and you'll OC someone off of there. And if they get picked up, they get picked up. But I'm
Yeah.
like,
I was just about to say that you have to kind of make the thing, especially when it was raise banners, which is a battle
yeah,
line thing.
yep,
What you want to do is and it's kind of what we talked about with Brian in the last show is
Hmm.
you got to be willing to sacrifice some things and know when it's time to sacrifice or be willing to
Hmm.
lose them to just get some points, even if it's for that round, and
Hmm.
or make them work for it. Even if it just ends up contesting, you're
Yeah.
taking points away.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what a lot of it kind of comes down to. And that's something I'm still trying to learn with the Votan, because that's one of the things
Yeah.
is my models are not surviving the whole battle.
Right.
They're not going to last. I'm not going to be one of those armies that has full health by the end of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
You've got the bonus with the Necrons of
Reanimation.
regenerating
Yep.
wounds and bringing models back. So
Yep. And that
even if
played.
you, yeah, even if you throw something down and they start taking out half of them, well, you're probably going to get two or three back
Yeah.
by your round.
Hmm. So that one was a bigger loss for me. I think it was like 82 to 57,
82-52.
82-52. Um, because basically by the end of round three, I was like, the game's yours, man. Like it's you're
Yeah, if he's castled
15
up.
points, you're castled up. I have nothing to shift you. I can maybe deny by charging,
Hmm.
like shooting you with the monolith in the center and then charging it. But he had like banners with each of his because he
Guard.
had two guard units and then one warden unit, and they
Yeah,
all had the Vexillas, which gives a bonus to OC, two Gladius tanks, and then two separate units of sisters, and these sisters had a Rhino,
right.
and that's how he was getting his 6-inch synergy. Like Steve was for, I think he said he was a newer player, like really had his synergies down, like
Hmm.
knew how his army worked. So like well played by him,
Hmm.
absolutely. So I've got no, and he was fun to play with. There's no
Yeah.
like
Custodies are
complaints.
a hard army. There's a reason why they were so
They're
good at the
tanky.
beginning of 10th, but yeah,
Hmm.
they're tanky. I've played them
Hmm.
one other time, and really it was because I had volume. I just had a volume of
Yeah,
shots that I could do, and it was just so they might have a 2-up save, but if you're putting 10 or more shots into them, you're going to
yeah,
be getting wounds through.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I did that, like pinged off
Hmm.
wounds, but I was losing. It was, I think I had storm hostile objective and area denial.
Yeah, those
And
are
so
hard.
I scored them, but it cost me the
Yeah.
10 Necron warriors because I moved the monolith up. I dumped them out. He was on the objective. I dumped the warriors out. I out OC'd him on the objective, and then they get wiped out
Hmm.
like next turn. So it's just, or in
Yeah.
his turn. So
Yeah.
I scored the secondaries, but it cost that one battle line unit to do it. So,
Mhm.
which is for me, it's acceptable. Necron warriors are 100 points, I think.
Yeah.
You're trading 100 points to, that's fine. Um, but yeah, the scarabs too. I found in all three games, people were like, "I'm getting rid of these annoying little things."
They
So
are
they were
very
worth it.
annoying. They're
They were
totally
worth
worth
it.
it.
Yeah.
They're a great little thing. Great
So
little
how was
unit.
your? Yeah, great little unit. How was your round three?
Round three was good.
Hmm.
This was my only win of the tournament.
Yeah, and
Ex
that's why it was good. I'm
Extremely
just kidding.
close. It was extremely close. We only managed to play until the third round. It was a
Okay.
slower game. Uh,
Okay.
I ended up winning by 5 points. So again, a super, super close game. Played Adrian from
Hmm.
JMB Bookstores.
Yeah, it's out in Trenton. Yeah,
Their kind of league.
nice.
So some really nice guys. Again, they were out there in full force with all their shirts on and stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
saw that. Mental
They're
note, we got to get shirts.
Yeah, exactly. They're really good. He was playing the Blood Angels, which was
Nice.
interesting. Sons of Sanguinius. He was playing the
Okay.
True Detachment.
What's that?
Um, so it was they get a lot of buffs on charging and attacks, basically.
Okay.
If they charge into melee, then they get like +2 or +1 on attack, +2 to strength and things like that. So it takes their normally not to or okay type of weapons into something that's a lot heavier hitting and that can do some
Hmm.
damage to a Sagittar. Or
Nice.
if they're given enough time, they could do some wounds into a Hecaton type of thing.
Right.
But this one, I played aggressive in this one, moved up, was on the line, had guys out to kind of screen things out so that they couldn't move up too much more, or they were going to work their way through a blob type of thing. Um, this was probably the only game where I had really clinch saves happening for me.
Nice.
He had a Land Raider, he had an Executioner Destroyer, and a Ball Predator. The Ball Predator was just moving up and flaming the hell out of anything that was in range to it.
Cool.
Because it's just torrent, so it's just automatically hitting, and it's just whether it wounds you or not. And Votan don't have a great save.
Yeah.
So he was just burning through my warriors like they weren't even there. But he was shooting into my Hecaton. It was the
Mm-hmm.
Oath of Moment target.
Mm-hmm.
It was getting shot at with like las cannons and all this
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And by God, I was rolling sixes on my saves, and it was like it should have been dead in like round one
Yeah.
or round by
After,
round two at the least.
right.
But it survived until round three type of thing.
Awesome.
Just with everything that was going into it. He had to put almost his entire army shooting into it to actually get rid of it. It took forever.
Oh
Um,
man.
but it was really good, and it didn't explode, so it didn't do any additional damage to my guys, which was nice.
Right.
But it was a really, really good game. It was really close.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of those kind of the moments where you do your deployment and you're like, okay, I think I've got this kind of solved. I can score my secondaries. And he and I were scoring secondaries not uncontested.
Mm-hmm.
We had to work for them, but it wasn't super, super difficult to be scoring them. Um, he had his infiltrating scouts that I had to deal with kind of round one, so I had to move guys in and do some stuff. I was lucky with some of the secondaries I got. I got like sabotage, containment, area
Right.
denial, kind of off the
Nice.
bat. Some of these ones were coming through, so it was
Mm,
easy scoring to begin with.
nice. Good
Um,
good way to
and then
get ahead.
I had a unit that was in deep strike, and he moved up off his home objective. I pulled something like engage on all fronts, so I was able to throw them down and had all four
Nice.
table quarters, scoring the points that way.
Great.
It was just really good. If we had played it out, it probably, I don't know if I still would have won the game completely if we
Mm,
had played through all the way to round five. Because he was working his way through my units. He had
right.
Lamarties come in on turn three
Mm-hmm.
um, with all of the Death Company, and they can
Right.
just destroy things when they
Why
come
did he
in.
hold off, do you think, bringing them out or?
He initially couldn't bring them in a certain area
Oh,
until the round. First of
screened
all,
him
he had to
out.
get them in, and then they were screened out for a little while.
Right, of course.
Um, and he brought in the Sanguinor, and when I was in the middle of one of the fights with my units, and he comes in and he's a beast. He's got fight first and all these other things, and he dropped him right into combat so that he could do the
Wow.
fighting right away.
Mm-hmm.
Took out a few of my Hearthguard, but eventually he that unit just ended up wiping out my champion and my Hearthguard.
Mm,
But again, it took a couple rounds for that to actually, a couple rounds of fighting for it to actually happen. But it was a really good game, really, really close.
mm-hmm.
As we were talking it through, it was
Mm-hmm.
going to be within points, like
Right.
2 to 3 points through the rest of the game of swinging it one way or the other.
Right.
So it was a really, really fun game. Great opponent. Um, Celebrated each other's successes, even when it was
Oh,
detrimental
awesome.
to ourselves, type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a really great game, and that was kind of the whole vibe of the entire tournament was
Yeah.
just it was just a lot of fun. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was there just to have fun. It was very competitive,
Mm.
but
Oh yeah.
really relaxed. It was
Yeah.
very strange. I've never.
Yeah. I mean, that's my second one there. Uh, at critical hit, and
Mhm.
yeah, I would, that's a great way of describing it. It's a competitive atmosphere, but super friendly.
Yeah,
But, but yeah, I'm an amateur, what do I know? But to me it's like it's really good Warhammer.
yeah, it was
It's
great
really good
Warhammer.
Warhammer.
Everybody, and when the game's over, you're like, okay, any advice? Or if I could
Yeah.
offer advice, this would be my one thing.
Hmm. What was your favorite game of the day?
My favorite game of the day. I think my favorite game of the day was actually the Gene Stealer game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Chaos Demons
Hmm.
and my last game against the Blood Angels, but
Hmm.
Gene Stealer was just it was just a fun game.
Yeah.
It was a cool army to play against.
Hmm.
The blip came through at one point, and he was like, "If I'm putting this someplace safe. I'm just leaving this back in my home objective to
Right.
make sure I didn't wipe it out or anything."
Yeah.
Um, but it was just a really fun game where it was like,
Nice.
"Okay, are you okay? Does this look like?" And it was like, "I think I've got line of sight. Would you agree?"
Nice.
Just
Gotcha.
really kind of like, I think this charge I think would be this. Do you agree with that, or are you
Right.
questioning things? And it was really good Warhammer, like you say.
It's it was a game between gentlemen.
It was a
Yeah.
gentleman's game,
It was a
yes.
gentleman's game. So I signed up for the next one, Emperor's Wrath, I think it's called.
Emperor's Wrath, October 5th. If
October
anybody,
5th.
I think half the tickets are still available. If you guys are
Yeah.
listening,
Yeah.
definitely jump on it. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah. Um, yeah, hopefully you'll see those mid-table terrors guys at it.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
normally there. I think it's close to where some of them live, so they'll be probably
cool.
playing in there.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna run Necrons again, to be honest. I was like, the nerd in me, I was like, oh, it's the lion on the logo. I should try and get my Dark Angels done in time. But I'm like, let's be realistic. I'm
No.
away for work next week, and um,
Hmm. No, stick with you.
I,
Your
I'm
Necrons
gonna.
list is
I
good.
mean,
It's
oh,
why I'm sticking with Votan. I'm not
oh,
necessarily doing great with them, but
mhm.
I'm learning the army. I want to learn it.
Well, and that's it. I want to stick with it because I was tempted to go back to Death Guard because I'm like, I know my Death Guard list. I know my Death Guard stratagems. I don't even have to look at them.
Hmm.
Don't have to guess anything on a unit. Um, but I'm like, I want to get the reps in. I want to get the practice in with
Yeah.
the Necron. So I'll probably roll with that list.
Hmm.
Maybe tweak one or two things, but by and large, I think I'm going to roll with that list again in the next one and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Change up my deployment 100%.
Yes.
My deep,
Yes.
my reserves are going to change, but
Hmm.
yeah, it was good times.
It
Good
was a
times.
it was a great game. I didn't see anybody leaving there upset. Everybody had a
No,
smile on their face the whole time.
if and I'm sure people saw me running out, it was only because I got messages being like, "Are you coming? I'm at the train station. You're supposed to pick me up." So it had nothing to do with coming almost dead last. It had everything to do with, "Oh my God, I've got to get out of here."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I said goodbye to a bunch of the people.
Right.
A bunch of the people that played against you said, let your brother know he was a great opponent, that
Oh,
they had a
cool.
great
That's
time
very
playing against
nice.
you. So they were really,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a good time was had by all, which is really the important
Yeah, no,
thing.
I think we made some friends, so that was
Yeah.
well, always well worth it. And hopefully, uh, you'll run into these fellas playing in the league. That sounds like a really good
I
time.
I hope so. And it was
Hmm.
for the fact that it was like, yeah, almost 30 people playing across all those tables. It didn't feel claustrophobic. It didn't feel
Hmm.
heavy. It got loud, but
Yeah,
it was all really good.
my voice is a little raw. I'm a little raw from
Yeah,
like you do so much talking throughout the day, and then
yeah,
um, and at a raised
yeah. A raised
volume.
tone. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a great game. I highly encourage anybody to get out there and
yeah,
Critical Hit. I can't say enough good things about them. I'm not just
yeah.
a shill that's like trying to look for favor
Yeah,
with
our
Dom or
sponsors
anything.
are Coca-Cola, uh, Games
Uh,
Workshop, as our fans know.
um, but it is a great atmosphere, and it's a place where you can get in and play whether it's Magic or any other D&D, whatever board games you want. It's a
Yeah,
great place to get in. It's a fantastic atmosphere. It really, really is.
and even for out of towners like me, it's easy to get to, right? It's
Hmm.
a jog off the 401, and then you're there,
Yeah,
piece of cake. But yeah, no, I encourage anyone who's listening to the program who's like on the fence about doing tournaments, or have
totally
been
beginner
sitting
friendly.
sitting on their models for a long time and been like, oh, I'd like to actually start playing this. Dive in, dive in, jump into
Hmm.
these tournaments. The level of sportsmanship and uh, uh, friendliness and welcoming that's at
Hmm.
places like Critical Hit or Kingston and Nexus. There's communities everywhere that just want people to play and keep playing the game and
Yeah.
grow. So I'd encourage anyone to who's got who's thinking about it and hasn't pulled the trigger yet, or has friends that haven't pulled the trigger, that encourage that friend, that relative to be like, hey, come on, I'm signed up for this. Most of them are like $20 to join,
Yeah. It's
20
20
bucks to
bucks
play
for
a
a good
game
day.
for a good day. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
So, all
Yeah.
right, ladies and gentlemen,
We will sign off until next time. You guys
we'll
take it
see,
easy.
and we'll see you in the Constellation League.
Bye.
Bye.